What's up, guys? We are back with another Marvel Legends Deluxe review, taking a look at Apocalypse from Age of Apocalypse. So we got the AOA wave, we finally get the man himself, and I've really been looking forward to this one. I have been trying to find this guy in store and had just struck out nonstop. So I finally got him from one of my pre-orders, and I'm really excited to dig into this guy because I like the Age of Apocalypse stuff. It's different. Some of it's really goofy. This is a very goofy looking Apocalypse in many ways, so I'm very interested to see what he's got going on. He does come in the kind of wider format deluxe box that we see with Legends. Same kind of shape, but it's just bigger. So figure there in the window, X-Men logo down there on the bottom, the AOA X-Men logo down there on the bottom. Some really great artwork of Apocalypse on the spine of the box, and then on the back you've got a big product shot and then a little bit of a write-up for the guy himself. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our AOA Apocalypse. So I guess this is the cap to all the recent AOA figures. And it's nice to be able to get this guy. It would have been a bit of a bummer to get that full wave and then never actually get Apocalypse to go along with it. So there is, of course, a lot of reuse going on here when it comes to this figure compared to that original BAF from whenever that was, a few years back. But it's not that similar, really. There is a lot of different stuff here. Obviously the design is very different. He's got a cape, he's got different armor pieces, he's got different boots, so they are similar but they're very different from each other. So it's nice to be able to get this guy in one go rather than having to build him. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. This guy definitely suffers in many ways from his design because he is, well, he's a big bulky figure for one. He's got a ton of armor on him, and he has a plastic cape. So there is a lot that is going to get in your way. He still moves pretty well, though. I'm not too concerned about it, because honestly, he's probably going to stand around looking maniacal or just plain evil. So it's not the biggest deal to me, but he does still have some issues. So the head can go really far up, and it can go really far down too. Of course, he does have the big monster collar because his fashion sense is just the weirdest thing. So that's going to get in the way a little bit, but his head does kind of fit snugly down in there. I'm not sure what he's looking at when he's doing that, but he is looking down. You've got full rotation, but it is within the confines of the collar. It is a separate piece. You could take it off if you want, but he does look kind of funny. There is no tilt or anything like that on this guy. Arms go out at the shoulders. They do rotate all the way around, but there is stuff in the way. So they really only go back this far before they start to hit the cape. And he is a Build-A-Figure still, so you might pop the arms out when you're moving him. I haven't had too much issue with that, but you might. It's just the construction nature of the figure. You do have a bicep swivel. Single jointed elbow is one of my biggest gripes on this figure articulation-wise because he's got big monster beefy arms, so they're going to be difficult to move to begin with. A lot of plastic rubbing up against each other, but he's got this huge gauntlet here, and that really only goes about that far. So when he's about, what, a 45-degree angle maybe? It's enough to get him to have his arm kind of hoisted in the air doing some maniacal pose, but it does still have some problems. You have got a rotating and hinging wrist. He does have this kind of plate on the top of the wrist, which gives you like one click up, and then he can go down pretty good. So you've got your hinge, and then you've got rotation there. We do have our ab crunch, so he goes forward pretty good, and he does go backwards pretty good too. The cape does, of course, kind of hinder that a little bit, especially when you've got him on the ground, because it's going to hit the ground. And then he is a little wobbly. The Build-A-Figure was the same way too. I think it's just this mold. You've got your waist twist there. Legs go out pretty far. They're not full splits, but that's probably further than you need. They kick forward all the way. They do kick backwards slightly. You do have your thigh cut, and then you've got double jointed knees. They only go back that far because of the boot situation there. And then you do have a boot cut, and then you've also got a rocker, and you've got hinges, but the hinges aren't that great on this guy. He goes backwards a little bit, and then he goes forwards a little bit. They are kind of locked in because of how the boot is sculpted. There's kind of like wrinkles in what would be, I guess, leather or whatever, and it's kind of locked in there. See, the collar's kind of coming up on him already, but he does move okay. There just are a lot of things that kind of get in the way based on his overall design. The thick, chunky arms, the gauntlets, the collar, the cape, and then just the sort of floppy nature of the crunch there, but it's not anything that presents stability problems or anything like that. Now, aesthetically, I'm quite happy with this guy, though. There is one thing that I would love to be able to change on this guy, the cape, because, I mean, it's just crying to be a soft goods wired cape, but this is honestly not too bad, and it holds in there surprisingly well. So the figure is at its base a reuse of the Build-A-Figure from whenever that was. So you've got the chest, the arms, and then most of the legs. The legs are not exactly the same because that Apocalypse had kind of weird techno boots like he does. You know, he has all the techno-based armor. But the majority of the figure, the base of the figure, is the same. And we'll do a comparison between the two here shortly. But things like the armor pads here, those are different. These red gauntlets with the yellow disc in them, they're different. The boots are different, and then of course the upper part of the calf is different as well because that Apocalypse did not have any leg showing. It was all boot, techno, organic, whatever boots. So he does look decidedly different, and that's a great thing. I like the fact that he is so far removed from what you consider a classic Apocalypse design that he looks like and very much is his own thing on the shelf. Paint on him is pretty good. He's done it in kind of the metallic-y plastic, which I say a lot. I really do like that. It catches light really well, and it's just, I don't know, it goes back to like goofy 90s stuff for me. It's metallic, it's kind of, you know, pearlescent, and it just catches the eye. I like it. He does have red paint on his crotch area there, and there is a little bit on the thighs as well. It is one of those things where it kind of suffers from not being thick enough. So there is a little bit of a thinness to it. You can sort of see the blue kind of peeking through. And then you've got some silver down here on the boots. I do have a paint QC issue right here. There's some silver down there. So someone got a little overzealous when they were swiping on his boot. The yellow discs, though, are pretty good. There is a kind of a nice gray to these hands here. They're not super metallic, but they're not shiny metallic either. So they look a little bit more old, I suppose. They're not just bright, new metal hands, I suppose. And then you've got a different color up here on the chest. So he's got really dark blue pecs to match the shoulder pads, which are again done up in kind of a translucent, well, not translucent, but a metallic-y pearlescent plastic, which is super glossy, especially compared to the body, which is already really glossy. And then you've got the monster collar piece over here, which again is a separate piece. So you can pop this off, just like the other figure, the Bath, also had a separate collar piece that could be removed. There are just some holes in here that if you know what you're doing, like I apparently do not, you can get it lined up and put it back on the figure. But then you've got this big cape, which is kind of a love-hate thing for me because I think it works pretty well. The actual cape pegs into the shoulder pads. It's got a nice hang to it, so it drapes really nicely over the figure itself. I really like the wrinkles and how it kind of bunches up here at the top of the shoulders. But it's still a big honkin' plastic cape, so it weighs him down. It does present some balance issues at times, but it surprisingly stays in really, really well. I don't think I've had any instances yet where it has popped out. So that's a good thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword there. It hangs really nicely. It sits really well on him, but it's still a big piece of plastic that does make him kind of lurch backwards. So you do have to take it into consideration. And then we've got this crazy looking head sculpt up here, which I absolutely love. This is very much an Apocalypse look. The crazy, maniacal, just devious, huge smile on his face with the kind of, it's almost metallic paint on the head here. It very much tries to match the shoulder pads, and then you've got the open mouth. Everything's really clean and crisp. I have no paint issues on this face. The big monster tongue in there with the lines that run around the lips, and of course run back to the kind of the discs on the helmet. And then you've got those red eyes with a little bit of a wash around him. So he looks really good. I'm really happy that they kind of went this route for one of the heads, just to give you something a little bit different, not just a really mad or a stoic expression, but something that absolutely captures the look and feel of Apocalypse. I mean, he's crazed, he's maniacal, he has a humongous god complex, obviously. So this head works for me really well. I'm very much looking forward to putting this one on the shelf. And then as far as accessories goes, he has a handful of things. Nothing too crazy, but he has some pretty interesting items. So to start with, you've got the extra head sculpt. So you can replace the crazed look with the more stoic, just plain evil looking face, which I really do like. I don't think I'm going to use this one on my display, but I'm happy that we have the option, so it's nice to be able to change it up. Sculpted really well. Paint is perfectly applied. No issues there either. Then you've got extra hands. So you've got we've got a kind of open palm gripping hand here that he's had on him, and the right fist. You've also got a left fist as well. And then you've got, for that open palm hand, you've got the skull, the kind of signature accessory, I suppose, when it comes to this particular release. Ton of wash all over it. Sculpt is really good. It's definitely, you know, kind of a small skull, so it's more in line with a Marvel Legends style figure. It doesn't have a peg hole or anything on it, so you're not going to be popping it onto a figure unless you want to drill one out. And yeah, he can hold it in hand just fine. I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be. You know, I've said I really like the Age of Apocalypse storyline, but I have not read it in a long time. So if this is supposed to be someone, I would really like to know, because I don't know. Frankly, I just don't remember. I need to go back and give it a read. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I won't do that, actually, but I need to. So you've got this accessory. This should be able to be used all over the place. Interesting one, very unique, very different from what we normally get in Legends, so it's nice to be able to get something like that. And then, yeah, so he comes with a pretty decent spread. Not too much, but certainly not nothing either. And there's really not a ton of things that you can truly give Apocalypse. So I'm glad they gave us at least a few things with the skull, with the hands, with the extra head. And then, because why not, let's compare the two figures as far as the BAF and the AOA figures. So there's really not a lot to compare to here. I mean, they are so very different. I mean, obviously they're very similar. They share a lot of the same base parts, but they're so very different. I mean, the cape, the pauldrons, the gauntlets, the boots and the calves, the heads, the collar, the paint scheme, everything really. And of course, this one has the extra arm piece there. You could, I suppose, swap that if you want, but you'd have to take the gauntlets off, and it has this black piece on it because it's all one piece. So yeah, you've got two really good versions of Apocalypse here. I would still say that this one is my preference just because classic is always great, but I do dig the AOA look, and I think Hasbro did a pretty good job here of reusing all of those base parts and throwing a bunch of other stuff on him to make him very much stand apart from the BAF. So yeah, AOA Apocalypse is a pretty solid figure, if not for the few kind of gripes that I have when it comes to articulation. That's really where all of my issues, they're not even that big of a deal, sort of start and stop. He does have a lot of stuff that just sort of get in the way. And we see that a lot with these bigger figures that have a lot of armor on them. So he's got pauldrons, he's got a cape, he's got that goofy collar, he's got big gauntlets. They're just going to get in the way. It's kind of the fact of life when it comes to Marvel Legends. So it's not unexpected, it's certainly not a good thing, but it doesn't detract from this figure too much. I still think he looks fantastic being huge and hulking and imposing on the shelf. He looks really good next to that original BAF figure, and it's a great use of that body again while throwing a bunch of other stuff on him to make him this unique version. So he's going to go really well with all of your other larger Marvel Legends figures, and he's going to go really well with all those AOA figures we just got. I am very happy to add this guy to the collection. So that is going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends AOA Apocalypse. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.